Welcome back, guys. This is the second tutorial of this C# course, and today we'll be doing some codes to make our character jump. The first thing we'll do is make our character jump, and then we'll make our character move. This is going to be in two separate tutorials, so let's get started. The first thing we need to do is in our asset, let's create a new folder, and I'm gonna name it scripts. And in script, let's create a new file. We'll be naming C# file, and I'm just going to name this one player. Okay, now if we right click and open, I'm just gonna press reload and your editor should open. You can use whatever editor you want, won't make a difference. There are especially two types of C# editor, like MonoDevelop and Visual Studio are the main editors, so you can use whatever you want. I'm using Visual Studio. Alright, let's get started. These three functions, this using thing, this is the library functions. These are inbuilt Unity engine functions. Don't touch them, just let it be like it. Don't touch it. And this is the class that we just made, and this player class has been inherited from this MonoBehavior class. This MonoBehavior class is also inbuilt Unity engine class. Don't touch it, just leave it as it. Alright. And this void start, this function is also an inbuilt C# function that is going to what's the word I'm looking for, execute. This function will execute just when the game starts. And this is the void update function. As you can see, update is called once per frame. I mean, this is like if you want, say, this function will be called, say, every second. That's easier for you to hear. All right, so let's make this happen. The first thing we need here is some private variables. For example, the first thing we need to do is to access our player. We need the variable to access this rigid body 2D component. To do that, I'm just create a private rigid body 2D and just name it body. Okay. Private rigid body 2D body, and next thing is private float and name it move x. And also let's make two public variables named, one will be speed and another will be, oh sorry, my bad, public float speed, and give it a value of, say, 20.0 f. And public float, what we can name it, say, upper force, I guess, upper force, and this will be upper force, and I'm going to give it 300.0 f. This f means that it's a float, so no big deal. Alright, the next thing is, now we need to initialize this variable in our start function. So what we need to do is get the body variable, body equals to get component, and in this arrays write the body type. It will be rigid body 2D, and that's that. Very easy, nothing too much complicated, I'm hoping. Now we will need to create one more thing, that is going to be private boolean is jumping. Alright, and I'm just going to set is jumping. It's jamming, it's jumping. Private it's just going to be is jumping, and just set it to false. Okay, now we will be creating a new function called void player movement. Void player movement. Okay, that's it. In this function we'll configure the movement. The first thing we'll configure is the player jump function. I'm just gonna comment player jump. Okay, so to make sure our player jumps, first we need to give an input. So that, let's say, if we use the inputs our space bar, our player will jump. So to give input to Unity, the first thing we need to do is type if input dot get button down, and in here it will take one argument, that will be jump. Right, I'll explain what this is. This is like an input class that is built in Unity C#, and get button down means that when you it allows you to use a specific button. For example, if we say here jump, it means the space bar. So when this line means when we push our space bar button down, this function, not just this condition, will be true. And also we need another condition, that is if is jumping equals to false. Okay, that's enough. And now if this condition is true, I'm going to set is jumping is equals to true. And now body dot add force, and in here we'll type vector2 dot up and vector2 dot up, and this is going to take a specific parameter, which will be, let's say we have a upper force, right? So that is going to be upper force. Hang on, I think I made a bug. Hang on, let me see something. You get a move X, and there you go, and vector2 dot it's fine. All right, so all you have to do is vector2 dot up, that will multiply it with upper force. Now I'll explain what this line of code means. What this means is our rigid body will have an add force function. This add force function will enable our body, which means our player, to go, so to generate some force. Now, in which direction will we generate our force? That will be on vector2 dot up. The question is, why not vector3? The thing is that we don't need to say generate any force on the z-axis. Vector2 means only x and y-axis, so vector2 is fine. So all we have to do is vector2 dot up. Up means the y-axis, and asterisk, it means the multiplication syntax and upper force. So this function would enable our player to jump on the y-axis against the gravity. Simple as that. Okay, now we need to now we need to call our function in here, player movement. My bad, I'm sorry, I threw my mic away. Okay, save that, and if I okay, now in our player we need to add a component, and if you type player in here, and your C# file will pop out. All right, now let's see if our player can actually jump or not. It jumps, but it jumps only once. See, I think let's increase this a little bit, like 600. The more upper force we give, the higher our player will jump. All right, but she jumps only once. You know why is that? Because is jumping is turning into true after we use our space button, but we're not making it false, so this condition can no longer be executed. So we need to make this condition executed. To that, so let's do that, and sorry, I'm going to type if, and that will be if body dot velocity dot y is greater than 0. What this means is when our player goes up which means when our player is jumping, our body dot velocity dot y, this value will increase. It means our player's y velocity will increase. So when our player is jumping, now we'll set our is jumping equals to true. We'll set our is jumping equals to no, it's not, sorry, not greater than, should be equals to. Then we'll set our is jumping is equals to false. Now, I'll explain this now. If body dot velocity dot y is equals to 0, which means when our player is on the ground, our y velocity is exactly 0. So at that point we want our is jumping to be false, so we can jump again. Alright, so now if we save this and play, okay, we can jump one, that's very good. Now let's see. Ooh, we have a bug. We can jump twice. Do you know why we can jump twice? The reason is because when our player jumps, at some point, oh, my mouse is at some point her y velocity becomes 0. So at that point, if we press space, this function will again execute, which will allow our player to jump from wherever she is right now. So we do not want that. So to prevent that, we need another if condition, and that will be, say, if body dot velocity dot y is greater than 0, then we'll set the is jumping is equals to true. Now remember, if our is jumping is equals to true, our player cannot jump, as you can see from this condition. Now if we save and play, now our player can no longer jump twice or thrice. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this was it for this tutorial. This is the player jump. In the next tutorial, I'll be adding the player movements, and so hopefully I will see you then. Thank you guys for watching.